All right, how's everyone doing today? Today we are going to practice a couple of things. I've been working on some videos about I've been working on some videos about intonation, and we've just been starting very simple, finding words and phrases to focus on within an idea. And now I want to make that a little bit more complicated today. And I want to talk about the falling tone at the end of a sentence and what that means. But also, I would like to practice the difference between a long I and a short I. And the way that we will do this, so we're going to read through part of a book, maybe just a couple of paragraphs. And as we do it, every time we encounter a long I or a short I, we will practice it. We will first we're going to read through these instructions about the difference between a long I and a short I. And then when we read through these few paragraphs, every time we encounter that sound, we will go back and remind ourselves how to pronounce these sounds, how to produce these sounds. So we have the instructions here, and I will be here helping. But we'll also be practicing some intonation, focusing on some words and not focusing on other words, and also the falling intonation. The falling intonation is just the standard intonation when you're saying a sentence with no special meaning. You always fall at the final part of the word. Let's start. Let's take a look at that. Oh, before we do, let's talk about how do you produce the long I and how do you produce the short I. Okay, now the long I sound is the sound in heat or meat or seat. All right, so these are the instructions on how to produce this sound. All right, and don't worry, don't think about memorizing this. Every time we find a word, and there will be many, we will go back and review the instructions. So we're going to go very slow. You don't have to worry about memorizing anything. I don't think that helps. Practice is what helps. So every time we find one of these words, we will go back and look at the instructions and make sure that we're following them. Oh, Fari Boris is here. Hi, Fari Boris. We say, long time no see. That means, that's an expression. That means I haven't seen you in a long time. Fari Boris was here earlier in our earlier video when we were reading. Okay, so let's read the instructions about how to produce the long I sound. Okay, it says hold the front part of your tongue high in your mouth. You can see here in the diagram. So the tongue is pretty high, but then also, you can see the tongue is pretty high, but it's actually going to go up a little bit too. So hold the front part of your tongue in high in your mouth, close to the roof. This is the roof of the mouth right here. That's the roof. Press the sides of your tongue against the back of your teeth. The muscles of your tongue should be tense. Okay, they're calling this actually a tense sound. And we'll figure out what that means in a minute. Spread your lips. Did you ever see in a movie, like when somebody's taking a picture and they say cheese? Why do they do that? The reason is because it has that long E sound. And to make the E sound, you have to smile. E. That's what they mean by spread your lips. E. Fari Boris says, or apple. Can you explain that a little bit more? Are you wondering if that's the sound that we're talking about today? That's actually a different sound, if that is what you're asking. Say apple, or are you saying that people say apple, apple, maybe, maybe, yeah, maybe you're right about that. I've never heard that before. I've never heard people say apple. I don't know. Okay, but when they say spread your lips, what they mean is like smile. As you begin to say this long vowel sound, move the front part of your tongue forward and up. So you see that the tongue is starting here. It's right here. But then as you're saying the sound, you should move it up like this. Now it says place your thumb under your chin and feel the tense muscles. So when you're saying E, you should feel tension in your muscles right here. E, E. And also it's a very long sound. The duration of the verb of the vowel is very long. Okay, so you've got your tongue pressing against your teeth, kind of high up, E. And then it even goes higher as you're saying it. And you can feel the tension in your muscles. E. And I think this is what I tell people, because I don't go through these elaborate instructions. I say, imagine you're also trying to pronounce an H, because that makes you push out a lot of air. And I think that's what creates the tension. E. You push out a lot of air, and you're creating tension. E. Okay, now let's compare that with the instructions for producing the short I. So that is the I of hit and lip and him and bin and build. Now it says hold the front part of your tongue high in your mouth, but lower than for E. Okay, so again, you've got this, can you see my cursor? Let's see. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, I guess you can see that. So you're going to hold it high, but not so high as in E. Okay, so hold the front part of your tongue high in your mouth, but lower than for E. Place the sides of your tongue against the upper back teeth. So that would be maybe around here. Upper back teeth around here. The muscles of your tongue should be lax. That means relaxed, not tense. Relaxed, calm, no tension, just relax. The lips are a little less spread than for E. So I. The tongue does not move as you say this short sound. So don't move your tongue. I. You just push out some breath from your throat. The tongue does not move as you say this short vowel sound. Place your thumb under your chin. You should feel no tense muscles. So when you say E, there's a lot of tension and pulling. There's a lot of pulling. But when you say there's no pulling. There should be no pulling. It's just some breath coming up from your throat. Okay, but don't worry about memorizing this, okay? Because, you don't see the cursor? Oh, that's too bad. I wish you could see it. I don't know how to make it. What is this? No, that's not it. Well, I have to find a way to show that. Because I think that's important, but I don't see, on the software that I'm using, I don't see a way that I can show it to you, unfortunately. Well, thanks for letting me know, though, so at least I won't assume that you can see that anymore. Okay, but now don't worry about memorizing this, because every time that we have these words, we're going to go back and reread the instructions and practice it, okay? So it's really not a big deal. Okay, but now, normally I've been using comics. You know, I've been using something like this for intonation and pronunciation practice because, you know, it's real dialogue, so I think that's better. But to practice the falling intonation, I think it's better to read from a book because I don't think there's a lot of falling intonation in a conversation. Okay, so I'll explain what I mean by falling intonation in a minute, but falling intonation is maybe the standard sentence. It's the way that you end a sentence when you're just saying something with no special meaning. You always fall at the end. And I propose, I've never done this before, so this is just some kind, maybe it's annoying, but we'll see. So I think that we're going to use this, this is from a website what is the name of this website? It's called singingcarrots.com. And so I'm using this to show where my tone is, where my pitch is. So on the left, that's lower, and when you go to the right, that's higher. Okay, and so the falling intonation will be on the left side. So if I say, today is hot. Today is hot. Hot. You see that? Maybe you could see at the end it falls. But first it goes very high before it falls. Today is hot. See how it falls all the way at the end? That's the falling tone. All right, but so we'll see if this is useful to us as we practice. I think it might be, but I don't know. I'm just experimenting. All right, let's see. So now this is just I'm reading 2 books. So we're practicing vocabulary with 2 books. In the mornings, I've been reading Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. So we've been going chapter by chapter. And in the evening, sometimes I read David Copperfield, which is another book. And so this is just from the last chapter that I've been reading of David Copperfield. All right, so let's start reading. Let's read the first sentence here. We're starting with this paragraph in short. But I'm going to try not to read any intonation into it. In short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises, took them for a month. Okay. So we have this phrase, in short, which means like in summary, or I don't want to explain in a long story to you what happened. And this has a rising and then falling intonation. In short, let's see how that looks with my website here. Wait a minute. In short, you see how it falls back at the end? It goes up, it goes really high, and then it falls back. Let's try that again. In short, see how it goes up, down, in short, in short. Oh, and now we have our first short I. Our first short I. I. So let's go back to our reading instructions. This is going to take forever. But that's okay. A lot of people are always very confused by the difference between those 2 sounds. So it's good to practice. Let me see if I can find... Is this it? Yeah. Okay. So now we have to say in. In. So remember that Isha Khalid says, hello, Isha, how are you doing today? All right, so that word in, remember this is the short I, and it says hold the front part of your tongue high, but not so high like E, and place the sides of your tongue against the upper back teeth. I. And do not press the muscles of your tongue. The muscles of your tongue should be relaxed. They should be relaxed. I. The lips are a little less spread than for E, so you should move your lips a little bit. I. Place your thumb under your chin. You should feel no tense muscles, no tension. I. So you're just pushing up, making a sound from your throat. I. And your tongue, the sides of your tongue are touching your teeth. I. You smile just a little bit. I. And there should be no tension here. It should be relaxed. In short. So let's go back to practice our intonation. So we're going really high and then really low. In short. See how that goes up, down. In short. So that's a very natural way of how English sounds. Up, down. All right. Let's go to the next line here. Fariborz is saying, is this... And he's got the upside down E. Oh, I don't know, because, sometimes... Look, for example, look at this book. Okay, they're using a different symbol, and it seems like everybody uses a different symbol. But I think that upside down backwards E is or it's I think that's what it is, actually. So that's a little bit different. And so today we're just focusing on the difference between I and E. All right? And I think that symbol, if I'm not mistaken, is for which is different. All right, let's return to the book. In short, can you say it like that? Try to go up, down, in short. That's a very natural sound. My aunt, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises. Okay, his aunt is renting him an apartment so he can go to school, and he's very excited about that. Enraptured means extremely happy. Extremely happy. My aunt, seeing how enraptured I was, seeing how extremely happy I was with the premises. Okay, so let's see. In short, and then we have that same rhythm. There's that same rhythm with my aunt. My aunt. In short, my aunt. So let's look at that again. Okay, so we've already done in short, but let's do that again. In short, up, down. In short, my aunt. In short, my aunt. See? Again, that same up, down. In short, my aunt. And again, if you want to use this software to practice while we're doing it, the name of that website is singingcarrots.com, which is a very strange name. And this is called the pitch monitor that I'm using, because I think that website has several different tools. Okay, so we have, in short, my aunt. Seeing how enraptured I was. Okay, and now we have that long E sound. So let's go back to our reference. And take a look at how to pronounce this E sound, which is a very tense sound, tense muscles, okay? So it says, hold the front part of your tongue high in your mouth, close to the roof. The roof is the top of your mouth. So hold your tongue high, close to the top, E, in your mouth, close to the roof. Press the sides of your tongue against the upper back teeth. The muscles of your tongue should be tense. E. So you should feel your tongue spreading out. You should feel your tongue contracting. They should be tense. Press the sides of your tongue against the upper teeth of the muscles of your tongue. You should be tense. Spread your lips. So smile. E. E. Everything is tense. Your tongue is tense. Your lips are tense. E. And also these muscles down here are tense. As you begin to say this long vowel sound, move the front part of your tongue forward and up. E. So you have to move your tongue forward and up. E. Place your thumb underneath your chin to feel the tense muscles. So everything is tense. Your lips are tense, your tongue is tense, and you can feel these muscles are very tense. E. Are you smiling? E. Are you pushing out a lot of air? E. Okay, now let's go back. I want to compare something with you for a minute here. So let's go back to the story and start from the beginning. Now, in the first word we have is in short. My aunt, seeing. Listen to the length of those two sounds. In, see. C is much longer. The length, the duration is much longer than in. That's why sometimes they call them long and short sounds. In short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was. Do you hear how long that is? Seeing, it's a long duration. Khalid says, I'm from Pakistan. I don't know what time you're alive. Have you made any WhatsApp group? I don't have any. I didn't know that you could make a WhatsApp group for teaching. I didn't even know that. I have no idea. I have WhatsApp, but I never use it for anything. I try to be live whenever I can. So I'm always trying to be live, but I don't really have a schedule, unfortunately. And why are you up so late, Isha Kaid? Because I think it must be close to midnight in Pakistan. But thank you for watching. Don't go. Don't go to sleep. Okay, but so notice that. In short, compare that to seeing. Oh, that's so long. In see. Very long. Okay, so in short, so let's practice our intonation. In short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was. Let's see. I think, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises. Okay, this is our first long phrase. Okay, because these other phrases, in short, my aunt. But now this is our first really long phrase. And we have to think about which words are we going to focus on in this sentence. Probably you will focus on verbs, nouns, adjectives, or adverbs. So what words do you think are important? I think enraptured, which means very, very happy, the happiest you can possibly be. And I think premises. Premises in this case means rooms, apartment. So I was very happy with the apartment is what this means. Okay, so I think maybe seeing, enraptured, and premises should be our focus words. Firebor says premises. Yeah, I think premises also. Really, technically, you should say premises. Oh, that's another one. Okay, if you're pronouncing premises correctly, like I was not, that is another long E sound. So let's go back. I'm sorry if you think that this is boring, but people have so much confusion with these sounds that I think the best way is every time we encounter the sound, let's just go back and practice how it's supposed to be done. Okay, and I'll practice with you. All right, so if we say premises, that's a focus word. So it's going to be important to well, let me cough. Because this is going to be a word to focus on, it's important to really pronounce this sound correctly. So remember that we have to hold the front part of our tongue high in our mouths, close to the roof of the mouth, and press the sides of the tongue against the upper back teeth. The muscles of the tongue should be tense, so your tongue should feel really tense. And you should spread your lips. You have to smile. Premises. And as you say the sound, push your tongue up. E. And you should feel tenseness here too. Premises. Premises. Okay. Let's go back to the story and practice this. Okay, but now let's practice our focus words. All right, so we have premises and enraptured and seeing. Okay, where's the stress? Where's the stress on the word seeing? Is that in the first syllable or the second syllable? There are two syllables. Seeing. It's on the first syllable. So let's make sure we really make that long. Seeing. Seeing. Okay, and then now let's practice with enraptured. What is the stressed syllable in that word? Enraptured. Enraptured. Rap. Okay, now sometimes the difference between, for example, UK English or Australian English or American English is the vowel sound. So I have an American accent, and the way that I say rap, the way that I pronounce that vowel is like eya, eya, e-i-a, eya, and rap, and rap. We're not focusing on this vowel sound today, but we have to practice it a little bit because it's part of the stressed syllable. So it's really important. Because the way that we can stress the word is making the syllable, the stressed syllable, longer. So we say seeing how enraptured, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises. Okay, and then final, or premises. Sorry, premises. All right, so let's take a look at premises. All right, so we've got that sound in our stressed word, which means it's going to be much bigger than normal. That syllable, premises, premises. So seeing how enraptured I was with the premises. But now also notice that these other words, we're just throwing them in the garbage. Okay, we don't really pronounce them too clearly. And this is why sometimes it's difficult to understand people in conversational English, because we stress some words as very important and then we just reduce the other words to little sounds that are things that you wouldn't expect. So seeing how is not really an important word. Seeing how enraptured. Now we have a very long phrase here. I was with the. But these words are not important. We decided that seeing, enraptured, and premises were important. So this becomes one little word. I was with the. I was with the. I was with the. Seeing how enraptured I was with the. Seeing how enraptured I was with the. Seeing how enraptured I was with the premises. I'm exaggerating, obviously. Okay, but now premises is the end of the phrase. We're going to start a new phrase after premises. This is where we want to fall, with the premises. Seeing how enraptured I was with the premises, with the premises. Seeing how enraptured I was with the premises. Seeing how enraptured I was with the premises. I have to look at my singing carrots here. Let's see how that looks. Okay, seeing, so we're going up with seeing, that E is a high tone, it's a high pitch. Seeing how enraptured, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises. Okay, but I want to fall on premises, sorry. Premises. Seeing how enraptured I was with the premises. With the premises. See how that goes down all the way to the bottom? With the premises. Seeing how enraptured I was with the premises. That's a normal tone. That's how typical sentence in English will sound. Just a neutral sentence. You fall at the end. That has other ideas behind it, but I'm just keeping this simple for today. So I think I just want to every day not every day, I can't do it every day, but every time I make a video about intonation, I just want to focus on one thing, okay? So maybe we'll return to the falling tone later and talk about some of the other things that it means. But right now, let's just get used to the idea that if you're just making a normal sentence in English, you usually fall at the end. Seeing how enraptured I was with the premises. Let's read from the beginning. Let's read from the beginning of our phrase. In short, so we start high and go low. In short, my aunt, so high, low, high, low. In short, my aunt, sorry, This is difficult for me too. I think that by the time I finish learning and teaching all of this, I'm going to be an expert speaker. My English will improve a lot because of this. In short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises. Okay, and then we have another phrase here, which is took them for a month. What do you think are the important words in that phrase? Took them for a month. Took them for a month. I say took and month. Took and month. And what that means is that those words in the middle will become very unclear. It would just become like one. Yeah, Fari Boris says took. Yeah, I think took and month are important words here. So I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but sometimes them becomes and it attaches to took or whatever word is in front of it. So took 'em. And that's because it's not really an important word in the phrase. Took 'em. Took 'em for a. Took 'em for a. Took 'em for a. Took 'em for a. That's how it sounds in conversation. So we're going to really focus on the word took, and we're going to focus on the word month. But those words in the middle, we don't care about. They're not important. For a. Took 'em for a. Took 'em for a. Okay, so we're going to took is just one syllable, so we'll just make that longer. Took. Normally it would be took. But we'll make it a little bit bigger because it's an important word. Took 'em for a month. Took 'em for a month. And we're going to fall on month. And these are both short syllables. Okay, they're not what are considered long syllables or tense. They don't cause tension in your mouth when you say them. We're not focusing on these vowel sounds, these vowel sounds today, so we won't go into detail about it. But instead of saying took, let's pretend there's a little H behind it so that you're pushing out more air. Took 'em for a month. And then again, let's pretend that there's an H after the in month. Took 'em for a month. And that will give you that extra length that you need. Took 'em for a month. Took 'em for a month. Okay, let's go. Let's take a look and see how that looks visually. So took, I think, will be a high tone, and then will fall all the way down to month. Took 'em for a 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 month. Seems like it's going up. Took 'em for a month. Took 'em for a month. Well, it's lower than took. Took 'em for a month. Took 'em for a month. Okay, let's read the entire phrase that we have and focus on the pronunciation of those short and long I's, but also on the intonation, the music of the sentence, which is going up, down, up, down, up, down. Up, down, up, down, up, down. And they kind of have equal time. In short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises, took 'em for a month. You see, and that's like the natural music of English. So if you're not following that pattern, then that's part of what you would call your accent. Because you probably speak with the pattern of your own language, which sometimes could be very different from the way that it is in English, and that could lead to some problems. Okay, so let's continue. Let's go to the next phrase, which is with leave to remain for 12 months. Okay, and now we come to leave. That's our long E sound that we're practicing today. So let's return to, let me find it. Here it is. To our chart. Okay, so we're doing the long E for leave. This is a tense sound. You should be making your muscles tense. All of your muscles are tense. Your tongue is tense. Your down here, whatever these muscles are called, are tense, and your lips are tense. Hold the front part of your tongue high in your mouth. Let me move out of the way so you can see the picture. Maybe go up. Okay. Hold the front part of your tongue high in your mouth, close to the roof. Press the sides of your tongue against the upper back teeth. The muscles of your tongue should be tense. So your tongue is tense. Spread your lips. Your lips are tense. E. As you begin to say this long vowel sound, move the front part of your tongue forward and up. Place your thumb underneath your chin to feel the tense muscles. This is tense, your tongue is tense, your lips are tense. Leave. And I think you should also be pushing out a lot of air when you do that. They don't say that. But that's what I always tell people when I'm trying to make them pronounce that sound, which is very difficult for a lot of people to do. Leave. Okay, let's go back. So in short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises, took them for a month, with leave to remain for 12 months. So that just means he's going to rent the apartment for 1 month, and if he likes it, he has the option to rent it for 12 months. Okay, and then we have remain. Remain. But here's the thing. Okay, that re is the sound that we're practicing today. But it's not on an accented syllable. Because if you say the word remain, the accent is on a, remain. Okay, so it's... I think what was that? Was that you, Fariborz, who said, oh, is that the upside down backwards E? I think that's the sound that you want here. Remain. Remain. It's just an sound. It's a throwaway sound. It's a sound you put in the garbage. So we don't have to worry about pronouncing that one. But yes, when you say... If sometimes if a word starts with re and you emphasize that re, which is very common actually, then you would say remain. But you don't have to worry about that here. It's just remain, because it's not on the accent. Okay, with leave to remain for 12 months when that time was out. Okay. So what do you think are the important words in that phrase? With leave to remain for 12 months when the time was out. I think leave to remain, I think, is an important... But that's not really a phrase that we use in modern English, so it doesn't matter, really. But let's say that we have to focus on leave here. Okay. Time. Let's see. Fariborz says time. With leave to remain for 12 months when the time was... Yeah, I agree with you. I think time should be a word that we emphasize in this sentence. Let's see. With leave to remain for 12 months when that time... And I think also the word that. I think that's a special word here that we should emphasize. When that time was out. Oh, instead of emphasizing time, I think I would emphasize the word that here. But again, now this is a North American A, which has like 3 sounds in it. That, with leave to remain for 12 months when that time was out. Yeah, I would put, because that is acting like an adjective here. And when you have an adjective and a noun together, and you're thinking about emphasizing a word, you should focus on the adjective. Because that's the important thing. I mean, if you said when time was out, then yes, emphasize time. But because it's a special time, that time, you have to place the emphasis on the word that. Okay, which is in American English, it's three sounds. That, and it's pretty long. It's a pretty long sound. With leave to remain for 12 months when that time was out. Okay, so we want to emphasize leave, which means these other words are not going to receive any focus. It's going to sound like one word. To remain for 12 months when? To remain for 12 months when? To remain for 12 months when? Swen, months when, 12 months when. To remain for 12 months when? To remain for 12 months when that time was out. That time was out. Time was out. Time was out. With leave to remain for 12 months when that time was out. Okay, and again, we want to fall by the end of out. We want that to end with a fall. When that time was out. When that time was out. With leave to remain, and we're going high with leave. Oh, wait, let me get my... I don't know if you find this helpful, looking at this website when we do this. I think it helps. It helps me because I get confused about it. I don't know if it helps you. Let's see. With leave to remain. With leave to remain when that time was out. 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 There we go. With leave to remain when that time was out. Out. I don't know why it keeps going up. With leave to remain when that time was out. Because I can hear it falling. With leave to remain when that time was out. All right. Well, let's go back to the beginning and reread everything that we've done so far. In short, so we're starting high, going low. In short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises, oh, sorry, that's a rising tone. We're trying to make this neutral, but it's not neutral, actually, but I'm trying to make it so. Let's try again. In short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises, took them for a month. So we're always falling down at the end of our phrase. With leave to remain for 12 months when that time was out. Can you hear that fall at the end of it? Do you hear that falling at the end of it? That's the typical music. So we're going pretty high with the words that we're emphasizing, high pitch. In short, oh, well, actually before. In short, my aunt, just before the going down, we're going up. In short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises, took them for a month, with leave to remain for 12 months when that time was out. All right, let's take a look at the next sentence, which is, Mrs. Krupp was to find linen and to cook. Okay, linen here, linen is a material, but we refer to the sheets that you put on your bed as bed linen. So if you just say linen, that just means the sheets for your bed. So Mrs. Krupp was to find linen. So Mrs. Krupp was supposed to supply sheets for the bed. She's the owner of the apartment. Mrs. Krupp was to find linen. What do you think? And to cook. What do you think we should emphasize in that phrase? Mrs. Krupp was to find linen and to cook. I don't even know. Mrs. Krupp was to find... I think just find is where I would go with that. Let's see. I'm going to read it. Yeah, and Fari Boris, thank you for agreeing with me. I think it's just find. Let's see. Let's try to read it with just find. Mrs. Krupp, Mrs. Krupp was to find linen and to cook. Yeah, just find. Okay, now we have, let's see, Mrs. Krupp was to find linen. We have linen, which has the short I sound. So let's go back to our reference for pronouncing these sounds correctly and practice this word, linen. Okay, so this is a lax sound. This is a relaxed sound. Your mouth will not be tense in any way. Okay, there's nothing extreme about this. It's just like you're producing a sound, some air from your throat, but you're also doing some very little things in your mouth also. Okay, so hold the front part of your tongue high in your mouth, but lower than for E. Faribor says maybe find linen. No, if you emphasize both of those words, that would be find linen. It sounds like you're frustrated if you emphasize both words. So I think find is the right word here. Can you hear the difference? Find linen and find linen. It's very different. Then you have to be careful about which, with intonation, which words you emphasize and how you emphasize them, because it changes everything. Okay, let's see. Hold the front part of your tongue high in your mouth, but lower than for E. Place the sides of your tongue against the upper back teeth, but do not press. Okay, so your tongue is very relaxed. It's touching your teeth. No pressing. No pressing, no moving. The muscles of your tongue should be lax. That means relaxed. The lips are a little less spread than for E. So you have E, and then you have I. The tongue does not move as you say this short vowel sound. So your tongue is relaxed, it's sleeping, it's not moving. Don't move your tongue. Place your thumb under your chin. You should feel no tense muscles. The muscles are relaxed. So when you say E, there's a lot of tension in your tongue and your lips and down here. But when you say I, there is no tension. You're all relaxed. You don't move your tongue. Everything just sits in place. Maybe you move your lips a little bit. E. Okay, linen, linen, linen. All right, let's go back and take a look. Whoops. I've got too many windows, too many things open that I want to look at. All right, let's see. Somehow I missed my page. Where was that? Okay, in short, Mrs. Krupp was to find linen and to cook. Okay, so now what we want to do is say this phrase, but we don't want to... okay, Faribor says, could you pronounce slid? Okay. There's an interesting problem that we have, which is that now this I is a short sound, okay? But when I say short, I'm talking about duration, okay? Because like, remember, if you say see, it's very long. It's a very long in duration, long in the time that you hold the E, see. And when you say a short sound, it's short in duration, like lip, lip, okay? But the thing is that the word lid, the final sound is a D sound. And you make that D sound not up here, but down here. Okay, and when you make, this is getting pretty complicated, but when you make a consonant sound down here, then the duration of a short vowel sound becomes longer. So, you know, if you say lip, okay, that P, it happens up here on your lips. Lip. Do you hear how short that I is? Lip. Lip. It's a very short sound. But because D finishes down here, you have to make the I extra long. So it's the same sound, but the duration is double. Lid. 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 So when you say lip, lip, that's very short. It's like you take scissors and you cut it. Lip, lip. But because D is down here, it's extremely long. lid. But it's the same sound. It's the same, or slid, sorry, slid. It's the same sound. It's just been doubled. All right, Mrs. Krupp was to find linen and to cook. Okay, and we want to emphasize the word find. So let's talk about that vowel sound for a minute. It is I. So actually it does finish with that E sound, that tense sound. I. It starts, you open your mouth when you start that sound, ah, but then you finish with E, that tense sound that we've been practicing. Find. Can you see? Watch my lips, the way they move when I say that. Find, 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 find. Okay. But that's not really the real sound is I. So we're not going to go back to the book and look how to make the sound again. We'll do that in some other video when we're focusing on I. Okay. So let's see. Mrs. Krupp was to find linen and to cook. So I think also we should focus on Mrs. Krupp. Mrs. Krupp find. Maybe we have to focus on Mrs. Krupp. Mrs. Krupp. We'll give that some extra sound. Mrs. Krupp. But this phrase was to will be almost nothing. Okay, Mrs. Krupp was to. Mrs. Krupp was to. Mrs. Krupp was to find. Mrs. Krupp, and we'll say that with a higher pitch. Mrs. Krupp was to find. Mrs. Krupp was to find. Mrs. Krupp was to find linen and to cook. And by the time we get to cook, we have to fall. Let's check it out. Let's check it out over here. Mrs. Krupp was to find. Mrs. Krupp was to find linen and to cook. To cook. To cook. I'm trying to see that because we have to be over here by the time we get to cook. We have to be on the, you can't see, but on the left hand, we have to be on the left side. Cook. So we can be over here when we say Mrs. Krupp was to find. Mrs. Krupp was to find linen and to cook. So you can see it go down. Cook. Mrs. Krupp was to find linen and to cook. All right, so let's go back and read from the beginning, practicing our intonation as we do this. So we have in short, my aunt. So we'll go high, low, high, low. In short, my aunt. In short, my aunt. Seeing how enraptured I was with the premises. So when we get to premises, at the end we want to fall. In short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises, took them for a month, with leave to remain for 12 months, when that time was out. Mrs. Krupp was to find linen and to cook. Okay, let's take a look at the next phrase. Every other necessary was already provided. What do you think we should focus on in that phrase? Every other necessary was already provided. Every other necessary was already provided. So remember, we could focus on nouns or adjectives or adverbs or verbs. Let's see. Faribor says necessary. I was thinking about that, but because I'm just doing this with you. I don't have the answers. It depends on what we're reading and what the meaning is. And let's see. I think that, if I'm saying this in my head, the word other and already is what I would like to focus on for some reason. Why other? Because we're saying, oh, Mrs. Krupp is responsible for changing the bed linen and cooking. That's so. Davy is renting the apartment, and she has to cook for him and change his bed sheets. But all other things is Davy's responsibility. So that word "other" is a very important word here, because we're kind of contrasting that with the other idea. Well, Mrs. Krupp does this, Davy does the other things. Does that make sense? I think when you emphasize two words next to each other, that always sounds aggressive or angry. Every other necessary. It doesn't. You pick one word, and I think this word should be necessary. But I understand why you want to do that. I wanted to do that too. At first I thought it was necessary, until I said it in my head, and I said, because that would be, okay, let's compare them. All right, if I say every other necessary was already provided. Now let's do necessary. Every other necessary was already provided. To me, if you say it like that, every other necessary was already provided. That sounds like if he wants little things, that's his responsibility. But I think the idea here is that certain things are provided and certain things are not. Not that things he needs he gets, but little things that aren't necessary he has to go find. I don't think that's what they mean here. So let's go with other. I hope I convinced you. And I think already would be a word to focus on also. Okay, do we have any of our our vowel sound practices in here? Every other necessary was already provided. No. Okay. So no vowel practice here. But so every other necessary was already provided. Up, down, up, down. Every other necessary was already provided. Okay, and then we want to fall on provided. Let's practice emphasizing other. Other. Is a short sound. So since we're emphasizing that word, let's pretend that there's an H after So it's a little extra strength to it. Every other necessary. And then we have already. Where's the accent on that word? Already. It's on the first syllable. I think that maybe you could pretend it's an H. Already. But I guess maybe it's my accent, the way that I talk, but I think it sounds like already. That's how I say it, but maybe that's bad. Okay, let's just pretend that there's an H. Keep it simple. Already. Already. Every other necessary was already. Let's make the pitch higher. Okay, let's say every other necessary was already. Every other necessary was already. So that's up, down, up, down. While the bouncing of the mouth. Yeah, that's how I would say it. All. Oh, I say it faster than that. All. But if I were to say it very slowly, it would sound like all. But I think it's better if you just pretend it's an H. All. That's better. Maybe the way I talk is weird. So let's see. Every other necessary was already provided. Okay, and we want to fall on provided. Let's take a look at the pitch on this website, Singing Carrots. Every other necessary was already provided. See, we want to go all the way down at the end. Every other necessary was already provided. Every other necessary was already provided. Okay, let's go back. I'm getting tired, so I think we're going to stop this pretty soon. But let's try one more line. Let's do one more line, and then I think I have to finish. I want to read actually, I want to read from this book tonight. So I'll rest for a little bit, do some other things that I have to do. And then, what time is it? 12 o'clock. So in about maybe 6 hours, I want to read another chapter from this book. But if you're on the other side of the world, well, if you're on the other side of the world, you might be waking up at that time. All right, let's see. So, Mrs. Krupp was to find... Let's start from the beginning. Okay, let's practice this up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And making the vowel sounds of our emphasized words longer in duration. Okay, so in short, my aunt, you hear that? In short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises, let's try that again, because I didn't do it properly. In short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises, took them for a month, with leave to remain for 12 months, when that time was out. Mrs. Krupp was to find linen and to cook. Every other necessary was already provided. Can you hear that? That's like a very... Well, I'm exaggerating, obviously. Well, let me read it without exaggerating. Let's see how that sounds. In short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises, took them for a month, with leave to remain for 12 months, when that time was out. Mrs. Krupp was to find linen and to cook. Every other necessary was already provided. See, that's more natural. I mean, we're exaggerating because we have to practice. But that's the natural way. And maybe you could recognize that, if you're watching TV, probably the news. I think that's how they talk in the news. It's very neutral. Okay, we're not putting a lot of emotion in this. That's very complicated to put emotion and hidden meanings in the intonation. I want to do that in videos later, but we have to start with the basics. And there are a lot of basics we have to cover before we can get to the more interesting implications of tone. Faribor says, I think it's really hard to focus on this. Yeah, I think that you have to practice. You have to start noticing other people do it. That's why I'm going very slowly with this, because I've already done, this is my 4th video talking about intonation, and I haven't done much. I think the first video was just picking out phrases. Like, where do you stop? Where do you pause when you're talking? Because that's important, where you pause. And then the next video was about maybe, I don't even remember. I think I did 2 videos about pauses. But my last video was about focusing on special words. And this video is also about focusing on special words, but adding this down tone at the end, which just makes it a statement. It just makes it information that you're sharing with another person with no special meaning. But the important thing I think to remember is, or to notice, you don't have to do it, okay? It is really hard for you to do because it's not your original language. But notice when people are talking, how the natural rhythm is going up on very special words and then down. And then up again on a very special word and then down. That's all you should be noticing here. Don't worry. Don't feel like you have to know all of this. It comes with practice, but start noticing it when you're talking to other people. Oh, yeah. It will also improve your listening. This is a very complicated subject. I think, probably I could do maybe 60 or 70 videos about this. I probably will. I want to cover all of it because it's a very interesting topic. But it's going to take a long time. But it's a good thing. If you could not even master it, but get used to it and do it a little bit, I think you'll see a big difference in the way people understand you. And you'll be more effective in your communication. Because you'll be You'll be more convincing. All right, let's see. So in short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises, took them for a month, with leave to remain for 12 months when that time was out. Mrs. Krupp was to find linen and to cook. Every other necessary was already provided. And Mrs. Krupp... no tones. And Mrs. Krupp was expressly... and Mrs. Krupp expressly intimated that she should always yearn towards me as a son. Okay, well, this is fancy language. That just means that Mrs. Krupp said she would treat me like a son. We don't have to talk about the meaning of those exact words, but to intimate something is like to share a secret or to say something in a secret way or in a soft way. So Mrs. Krupp expressly intimated. What do you think we should focus on in that phrase? Mrs. Krupp expressly intimated. This word expressly here means like very specifically. Like she made it very clear to me. And Faribor says a confidant is a friend. That's right, because confidential or confidence means secret. And so a confidant is a person with whom you share secrets. And Faribor says, let's focus on expressly, and I agree with that, because that word means she made it clear to me. She made it very clear to me, so there was no doubt. So Mrs. Krupp expressly... Now, where's the accent on that? Where's the accented syllable on the word expressly? It's in spress, okay? That's a short sound. That's one of these sounds that comes from your throat, like eh. So it's very short in duration. We have to make it a little bit longer because it's a special word. Let's pretend there's an H after that. Expressly. Oh, actually, we don't have to do that here because there's an S after that. I think I've been noticing when you have an S at the end of a syllable that's accented, you just make the S longer. Maybe that's just how I talk. But what I would do is extend the S. Mrs. Krupp expressly, I would emphasize the S actually. Mrs. Krupp expressly intimated that she should always yearn towards me as a son. So we'll make a rising tone with expressly. Let's look at that. Mrs. Krupp expressly intimated, and we want to fall with intimated. Mrs. Krupp expressly intimated. Mrs. Krupp expressly intimated. Okay, and that she would always yearn towards me as a son. Okay, this word yearn usually means I want something very, very badly. So I'm not sure how they're using yearn here, but it seems like the way that I would interpret this is that she would always have feelings about me like I were her son. I guess would be the best way to think of it. I don't know if yearn used to have a different meaning than it does now. Let's see, I'm just going to look up the word yearn to see if there is actually another meaning. An earnest, strong desire, long. To have an earnest, strong desire. Just strong desire. So I think we just have to be creative and interpret this as she would always have very strong feelings about me like I was her son. Let's see. Mrs. Krupp expressly intimated that she should always yearn towards me as a son. So if we know that, what do you think in that phrase, that she should always yearn towards me as a son, what do you think we should focus on? I think, in my opinion, I think maybe always. She would always yearn towards me as a son. Maybe yearn and maybe sun. Yeah. Faribor says yearn. I think so, maybe. Let's see. Let's try that. Mrs. Krupp expressly intimated that she should always yearn towards me. Oh, you see, the problem is that I think we should be emphasizing always, which is right next to yearn. I don't think it's good to emphasize two words next to each other. It sounds angry when you do that. That she would always yearn towards me as a son. That doesn't sound good. And I think always is a special word here. So let's forget about emphasizing yearn. Oh, we have to look at the word intimated because that has eyes in it. That has short eyes. So let's take a look at our pronunciation chart. Okay, so we're doing intimate. In-ti. We've got that sound 2 times. In-ti. In-ti. So if we want to make the I sound, you should hold the front part of your tongue high in your mouth, but lower than for E, and place the sides of your tongue, the upper back teeth, and do not press. So your tongue is up, and but you're not using any force. It's just there. It's very relaxed. The muscles of your tongue should be relaxed. The lips are a little less spread than for E. So when you're saying E, your lips go very far back. But when you say I, your lips just go back a little bit. I. The lips are a little less spread than for E. The tongue does not move as you say this short vowel sound. So don't move your tongue. Everything is relaxed. Nothing is moving. Maybe your lips a little bit. I. Then you push out some air from your throat. I. Don't move your tongue. And then place your fingers here. You don't feel any tension. It's very relaxed, nothing tense. Intimate. Mrs. Krupp expressly intimated that she should always yearn towards me as a son. I think we should emphasize the word son. We could put some emphasis on that word, son. That sound is a short sound. So let's pretend there's a little H after it, just to give it a little extra power, a little extra emphasis. Son. Son. Make it a little bit longer. All right, so let's look at the... Now, by the time we get to sun, we have to fall down. We have to fall. Always yearn towards... And now, yearn towards me as a... These are not emphasized words. So it's going to sound like one little word. Yearn towards me as a son. Towards me as a. Towards me as a. Yearn towards me as a son. Yearn towards me as a son. Always yearn towards me as a son. Always yearn towards me as a son. Forgot to fall. I have to fall there. Always yearn towards me as a. So always is emphasized. It's higher in its pitch. And then we go to this long string of words. It just becomes one word. Yearn towards me as a. Yearn towards me as a. Always yearn towards me as a son. See that? Up, down, up, down. Mrs. Krupp expressly intimated to me that she should... Now we have these words. Intimated that she should. That becomes one little word. Intimated that she should. Intimated that she should. I can't say that. Intimated that she should. It could just be... We don't pay attention to those sounds too much. Sometimes they disappear. Intimated that she should. Intimated that she should always yearn towards me as a son. But we're going down at the end because it's the end of our phrase. Mrs. Krupp expressly intimated that she should always yearn towards me as a son. Can you hear that? Up, down, up, down, up, down. Oh wait, we've got to look. Let's see it happen. Let's watch it in action. Okay. Mrs. Krupp intimated. Mrs. Krupp intimated that she should always... I forgot the words. She should always yearn towards me as a son. Okay, let me try that again. That she should always yearn towards me as a son. Mrs. Krupp intimated that she should always yearn towards me as a son. We've got to go down by the end of that phrase, son. Mrs. Krupp intimated that she should always yearn towards me as a son. Okay, let's go back and read from the beginning. And let's practice the intonations that we've done today. Okay, so we're going up, down, up, down, up, down. And then when we get to the words that we're focusing on, we make the accented syllable very big, very long in duration, and a higher pitch. In short, up, down. In short, my aunt. In short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises, took them for a month. Took them for a month. With leave to remain for 12 months when that time was out. Mrs. Krupp was to find linen. Mrs. Krupp was to find linen and to cook. Every other necessary was already provided. And Mrs. Krupp expressly intimated that she should always yearn towards me as a son. Okay, now I'm exaggerating, of course, when I do that, so let me read that in a more typical way. In short, my aunt, seeing how enraptured I was with the premises, took them for a month, with leave to remain for 12 months when that time was out. Mrs. Krupp was to find linen, to cook, and every other necessary was already provided. And Mrs. Krupp expressly intimated that she should always yearn towards me as a son. Okay. All right, well, I am tired, so we're stopping here for today. And in about 6 hours, I'm going to read the next chapter of this book. We won't be talking about intonation. We'll just be talking about vocabulary. But that's interesting, too. So if you're awake, then please join me in about 6 hours. And I'll see you then. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all the questions that you asked and participating. I always appreciate it when people ask questions and comment. That's really important for this. It makes it more interesting because you ask questions that other people are thinking about too. All right, well, I'll see you in a little bit. Goodbye.